Before entering the new year of 2020, I wanted to post the part two of my interview with David Regal. So here it is on Animated Educated. Enjoy.
I'll tell you what happened with the Carbonaro Effect. First of all, it was based on something Michael did on The Tonight Show, these segments where they cast him to be a clerk, showing people products and whatever in like a convenience store that had unusual attributes. And the wink to the viewer was, we know this is a magician. We know these aren't real attributes in a real product, but the mark, which is what we call the person to whom the trick is being played on, the mark will believe it's a real product. So it's an interesting structure if you think about it, because the world of magic, if you think of the traditional magic repertoire, is I'm a magician and I'm going to show you a trick.
Right.
So what's interesting about the structure is, well, there is no overt magician and there's no overt trick. The mark must think they're talking to a shopkeeper or a clerk, and must think they're seeing, in the case of that early version of this idea, a product with a unique attribute or experiencing a strange coincidence or whatever that premise happened to be. They expanded on that and sold it as a full-length series. So that thing he did on The Tonight Show was the germ, but then they developed it further. And as we were working on the pilot, because I've been with that show since the pilot, the production company kept calling it a magic show. Magic show, the magic show, because it's a magic show. And I said to them at some meeting, I said, I don't think this is a magic show. This show is a strange day in the life of a mark. And we use magic as a tool to give them a strange day, but all they care about, all the viewer cares about, is watching this mark believe something they shouldn't believe. And Michael, you're the star, and everyone will know you're the star, but no one will care about you. They really care about what this person is believing, and they're watching that process, and that's what's holding their attention. And I do continue to think of the show that way. So when I think of a segment, to answer your question in the longest way possible, I think of what would be an interesting thing to get people to believe. And the magic is a tool we use to help them believe that. And sometimes the things we make people believe are audacious, and you would never think we could get someone to believe it. But because we have techniques, not just magic techniques, but honest to God human behavior techniques to help make that belief happen, that some of these bits we do are astonishing in not necessarily just the magic way. They're astonishing as examples of human behavior, as a human experiment. I wouldn't say they all reach that height. Some really are. Oh, here's a product with a unique attribute. And they're very funny. But every now and then we will, we're like Babe Ruth going up to the plate. But in this case, Babe Ruth is in a van driving to some place in Chicago with our fingers crossed, with this idea that we've worked on in our little magic room and in basically a large apartment, hoping it would work, thinking it might work, but without any ironclad guarantee that these real people who we put into this, this process are going to react the way we hope they react. And because we have a very good team, and because Michael is uniquely skilled as an actor, we do make people believe. And I watch the show because it's fascinating to watch that process occur. And sometimes the tricks are very funny, and sometimes they're very deceptive, but I don't think that's the real hook. I don't think people are worried at home, but how did they do that trick? I think they're going, I can't believe this person believed that. That's what I think's going on.
Yeah.
We never make fun of people.
I like that.
And you're absolutely right, because there's an element of the awful word pranking in this, because they are brought into a situation, they're being told a falsehood, and that is the world of pranking. And pranking is kind of a mean word. We never make fun of someone believing the thing we're trying to make them believe. In fact, Michael very often has to use his genuine likability as a human being to make people either not mad at what just happened or accepting that they're not part of a miracle, because very often the lie is something positive.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you were a kid, when you were 7 years old, you were psychic. We made someone believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Then they were a child. They had psychic abilities. And to do that was extraordinarily involved. It involved so many magic techniques, so many behavioral techniques. But yeah, we got somebody to believe that, in the bit, they were an assistant landscaper. And they dug up a time capsule. And in this time capsule, they found, from their elementary school years ago, stuff from their class, and a drawing they made in crayon that predicted the future in many different ways, including things that Mark was doing in the scene that were just deciding then. Mm-hmm. And to do this kind of thing, we used every method in our bag of tricks. Things we couldn't possibly control, we predicted. Things we could possibly control, we predicted. We just did everything we could possibly do to make this, series of crayon drawings predict things that could not possibly be predicted. By the end of it, this guy, who was just hired to be an assistant landscaper, remembered drawing these drawings that he never drew without tipping the method. But obviously he wasn't truly a psychic. We used magic techniques to introduce things into unusual places in unusual ways that were the methods were imperceptible. He remembered drawing these pictures as a kid. And when that happened, that's when they fell deep. They fell deep. And it's never, not to get too involved with, how we make someone believe something audacious, but basically, you never try to just go for it. You don't just say, this thing happened, so now you must believe this. No, you have to get them off balance. First things happen that are difficult to believe, but possible to believe. Well, that's strange. Things that people will believe because it's the path of least resistance. Am I going to believe I'm on a hidden camera magic show when I'm here in a park? Am I going to believe that, that's a weird coincidence? No, they're going to believe it's a weird coincidence because that kind of thing can happen in life. And then the next step will happen. Well, combined with that's really odd. And by the time they're off balance, it's almost as if they're off balance on the edge of an abyss by a cliff. And once they're wobbly by the edge of the cliff, then you really can't give them that nudge. And then they're falling with nothing underneath it. There is no floor. They can't get purchase. And that's when people start believing deep, deep things. And as I say, in the case of someone thinking they were psychic, Michael, God bless him, had to take this person who just, had this wonderful experience of this miraculous, occurrence in his own life. And Michael would say, actually, it didn't quite happen the way you think. And because he's very good-natured about it, and I think because he sincerely doesn't want to hurt people and sincerely likes people, our marks are accepting of that. And in the hands of other people who do not have that quality that Michael has, which is a separate quality from being a good magician, a separate quality from being funny. It's a kind of a human quality. Other people don't have that human quality. So even if you could find someone that could do tricks, even if you could find someone that could be funny, without that human quality, you wouldn't have all those pieces that go into, Michael Carbonaro. And for my money, that human quality is a big piece of what makes the show successful. Even though people are laughing at the jokes and people are enjoying the magic and watching. But you knock that leg out, of the table
right.
that holds this show up, and you wouldn't have a show. The table would fall over. So, yeah, I think that humanness he has makes the show palatable, gets away from what you were saying, people might be a little upset at being pranked or, what have you. That quality of humanness and human kindness and that innate positivity is that imperceptible thing that makes the show work.
So did you ever have anyone that went through the whole thing and then just was mad or just like, you guys, and
it's-
walked away, and
yes,
I'm
and
not
for-
going to sign this, and
Yes,
you can't
and for
use
different reasons.
Really? Okay.
I would say, first of all, I'll preface this by saying, seldom. It's almost remarkable how seldom that happens. And again, I credit Michael with that because he's the one that lets people know. They don't walk off and talk to a producer. It's Michael. And so he's very good at that. But yes, there have been people for different reasons. Someone who felt they didn't look good that day and didn't want to be seen on TV that day.
Right.
Someone who didn't want to be perceived as needing a job. And of course, you respect that. Sometimes accidents happen. We did a bit that we thought was just funny, where Michael, while in an arcade, one of these big arcades, is fixing an air hockey set. It closes on him. There's like some sort of flash and noise, and he's zapped into a giant claw machine that's like 12 feet away. So it's a good trick, but the Mark thought Michael was sincerely hurt by this accident, and we didn't think that would happen. We were shocked, and they were very upset. Oh my God, Michael, are you all right? Like, this Mark was afraid Michael, is Michael going to go to a hospital? Is Michael going to be, seriously injured? So when we told the Mark, no, it's actually a TV show, this Mark was not happy. And we respected the Mark saying, no, thank you, I don't want to be part of this, because the Mark was so upset. But later we went back, and Michael and the producer said, look, if you don't want to be on this show, that's fine, but we just want you to know we really did not intend this to happen. And she ended up saying, okay. And so that ended up on the air. But, we edited out the parts that were sad.
Yeah, right.
We always really do tricks and really fool people, real people. But sometimes the bits we do are 25 minutes long to get a bit that goes for 3 minutes because you can't just walk someone in and do the magic. They have to live in that world. So, yeah, they get edited for TV, for content, but we're always really doing the trick and always really, really fooling people.
I guess this brings you to the magician side, the magic side of you. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I love magic, and it's a puzzle why people who love magic, but we do love it. You could say it's a bug, but I think it's more than that. I would say it cuts across a huge spectrum of individuals. If you go to the Magic Castle and look at the membership, there's people that work at JPL, there's TV stars, there's TV writers like me, there's professional magicians, and then there's hobbyists that are deeply into magic. And you can be an armchair psychologist and say, oh, when you're a kid, it gives you power when the world strips you of power, and that's a good feeling when you're a kid, and that's how you get into it. Maybe there's some truth in that, but as an adult, I can tell you why, for me, it's been tremendously therapeutic for a couple of reasons. One is, I'm 5'6", I'm not very athletic, but I understand how when someone is athletic, it will consume your mind and it will consume your body. By that I mean, if you are attending to, perfecting an athletic skill, it's going to isolate you from all the pressures of the world. You're completely focused on that, and there's a purity to that. Well, when I'm trying to master something in magic, whether it's a move or codify an idea or structure a routine, it's complete, it's total, and it's a very meditative kind of feeling. Even if it's a physical action I'm trying to work out. Physically, I'm occupied. Mentally, I'm occupied. And there's something about that. That's like going into a sensory deprivation chamber. And it's very pure, and I really appreciate it. On the professional side, for me, it was always a place to go where, well, when you're a writer, you're always pitching, trying to sell a show here, or sell a joke there, or interest someone in this plot here. So you're always doing that tap dance. And it's kind of exhausting, always doing that tap dance. With magic, it was a place for me to go where I'm not doing that tap dance. And magic's a very welcoming community. And experiencing that kind of sense of fraternity, you meet a lot of people that just like the same kind of things that you enjoy, these little puzzles, these things that maybe could be a little better or a little different, or someone has an idea here or there. And magic is, in a weird way, a meritocracy. I'm not saying everyone that deserves monetary success achieves the same level of monetary success. But conceptually, it's a meritocracy. If a 15-year-old comes up with a false cut in a room full of magicians, that room full of magicians, if it's a good false cut, will gravitate over to that 15-year-old and just take it in and experience it and appreciate it. If it's an 85-year-old man who comes up with that false cut, they're going to gravitate over to that 85-year-old man. And in that sense, it is what it is. A good idea is a good idea. And not to say that there isn't theft and all that nonsense, just as there is in every area of creation. But that sense of being part of a group, of contributing, in general, a welcoming vibe around magicians, I really appreciated as an alternative to the writing world, which I always felt there's a cutthroat mentality to it. An audience just wants money for their time. I mean, it's just like, not only do I wish this 20 minutes didn't happen, I want someone to pay me for those 20 minutes because the pain is that great. Bad magic, I would put right up there with bad improv comedy. It's just an assault. It's really, really bad. It's not just dull. It's you want to kill yourself. You just want to kill yourself if you're in the audience. I write books for magicians every now and then. And my current book's called Interpreting Magic, and www.regalmagic.com. I interview a lot of magicians in the book, as well as teach tricks. And Lance Burton I spoke to, and I spoke to him about failure. What I learned from Lance, the audience only cares as much as you care. They don't care more, they don't care less. They care exactly as much as you care. And I talked to Lance about that because I happen to be in the audience when, the one thing you don't want to have happen when you're performing, in his case, the floating bird cage, happen. The thing that makes it float failed. And the bird cage started to sink at the speed of gravity to the stage, and Lance caught it like an Olympic athlete. It wasn't particularly graceful. He leapt for it and caught it before it hit the ground. It had a bird in it, so you wanted him to catch it. And I was in the audience thinking, oh, this is really, really the worst thing that could possibly happen. Lance didn't walk away from the audience upstage. He walked downstage to them, holding the bird cage. And he looked right at the audience, gave a little bit of a shrug, as if to say, well, that happened, we're all still here. And he smiled at them and got one of the longest ovations I've ever heard at a magic show. He just handled it so perfectly. I went, oh, they care exactly as much as you care. And that's true. And I should have known that because it's true in improv. In improv, it's not about success. There's always failure in improv. That's what makes it so great when there's success, because it's like, whoa, this thing just came together. And when we had touring company members sometimes fill in for main company members, they were always very talented, very good performers, but sometimes they betrayed, I don't know, not fear so much as shame when a line didn't seem to land. It's like, no, you don't do that, because if you express that, the audience will feel it. They care exactly as much as you care. And I knew that was true with improv, but for some reason, I had to relearn that lesson for magic. But it's 100% true. You shouldn't aspire to fail, but if it happens, the audience will care exactly as much as you do. Well, one of my good friends is Mary Yedid. Do you know Mary Yedid's claim to fame?
No.
Mary Yedid, and this goes back to the 1980s. I was in New York and sort of getting back into magic. Mary Yedid had this act. People say, have you seen Mary Yedid's act? No. Skinny kid at that time from Israel. What's his act? Oh, he makes his fingers disappear. What do you mean? Well, he makes his fingers disappear one after the other. And I go, that's an act? It's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. So I go to see him at this nightclub that used to be across from Bloomingdale's. I ended up working there for a while. It's called the Magic Townhouse. And all I could think of, a guy's making his fingers disappear. maybe he's doing some black art thing, which for your listeners is it's kind of a magic illusion where, you somehow disguise the fact that something's present. I thought it'd be some nutty thing like that. But instead, it's kind of a cocktail environment. He's at a table, not 4 feet away from me. There's lights on him. I went, there's no way this man's fingers are going to start to disappear. And of course, he proceeds to do exactly that in an act that's, a full act, however long it is, 10 minutes, with jokes here and there, and his fingers are disappearing one after another. At one point, it looks like it falls on the table. He has one thing after another, and his fingers, real fingers, are disappearing. Well, he became famous for this act. He was the guy who made his fingers disappear. He created this act. And if you went to his apartment in Regal Park, Queens, he had a neon sign in the shape of his hand, missing a finger. His business cards were his hand where there's a missing finger, there's a question mark. He has little wooden hands with the cranks and the fingers move. His whole house is, devoted. He won like the IBM Gold Cups Award for his making the fingers of his right hand disappear. And that was who he was. He's in a car accident coming back from a convention.
Oh.
The car flips over and over. He and the other passenger in the car emerge from this potentially fatal accident, and Mayer's fine except for the fact that 2 fingers from his right hand were severed.
Ooh.
They get a helicopter. He's right near a microsurgery center, and they try to get both fingers back on the hand. Only one took. So now he can't do the act that made him famous.
Oh.
He taught himself to do it with his left hand and won the gold cups again.
Okay.
So there's a happy ending to that strange story, but somewhere in the middle of that story, is there a message from the great beyond? I don't know.
Wow. Whatever. But
I mean, that's part of it. I mean, even professionals, some of them are very secret-centric, and they go work very, very hard because they believe if they have a secret someone else doesn't have, that's the missing link between them and the success they perceive they don't deservedly have.
Right.
And the weird thing is there are some wonderful secrets, but by and large, what magic needs to be great is context. And it's secret-centric, and everyone's looking for the next secret, and we all want the best secret. I mean, we want the most elegant, most baffling secret, but that's just part of the equation, because generally, that secret alone is not enough.
Flows together, and that's what it should be.
Well,
it should be
magic. When magic works, it's a statement to the audience that, not that you don't know how it works, you don't know everything. It's a statement that there are possibilities, and people generally go through life meeting hurdles or walls, hurdles you can get over, walls you don't get past, and mitigating that. That's just what life is. We have limitations, and by magic saying, no, you know what, some things are possible that you didn't know were possible. It's a very optimistic and life-affirming message, even if it's not said overtly. It's a message of hope. And when magic works, it transmits that positive message of hope. The message that says, you know what? Not everything has to stop you. Not everything will stop you. You thought things were impossible that, well, it turns out are possible.
So you say you have a book out, or you're finishing a book? Or?
No, it's out.
Oh, okay.
It's called Interpreting Magic, www.regalmagic.com. It's a lot of explanation of how to do some routines I've come up with, but it's also a lot of interviews with people in different areas of magic.
Oh.
Some performers, but also people that design illusions, people that design things for Tenyo, which is a big magic company in Japan, people that come at magic from a lot of different places, a lot of different ways, and are, fantastic at what they do.
Okay, and I want to thank David for coming on the show, and
my pleasure, Jim.
And I want to thank you again for coming out on this rainy day.
That's nothing for somebody from Boston. Rain, it's a little water. It's just water. Do I tip this masseuse, or do you?
I'll get that. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Appreciate
Is that okay? Is you're all right with that? If anybody wants to learn more about his magic, You can contact him at David Regal.
www.regalmagic.com.
Regal Magic.
That's how you get the book.
There you go. That's all you need to do. And there you have it. That's the part 2. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe to Animated Educated on YouTube. And in the new year, we hope to have more interviews for you. I'm pursuing some big game, and soon it will be posted. So, take care and Happy New Year.